All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's a regular session. Let's go ahead and start with the roll call.
Mayor Bagley?
Here.
Council members Christensen? Here. Finley? Here. Martin? Here. Peck? Rodriguez? Here. Mayor Bagley, we have a quorum.
All right, let's go ahead and say the pledge, then I'll give the reminder. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just a quick reminder, anyone wanting to speak, the first public invited to be heard, find your way and get your name on that list, because anybody can speak at it, but if your name's not on the first list, you're not going to be allowed to speak on it, and you'll have to wait till the end of the meeting. So go ahead and find that. Let's go ahead and approve the minutes of December 12th, 2017. Do I have a motion or discussion? Oh, it's dead. It's dead, dead, dead. Hold on. Help. Power. You mean the one that says power?
Start there.
We shall start with power. Oh, there you go. I didn't unplug it. I don't think I unplugged it. Anyway, I'll let you do that. Council member, just raise your hands the old-fashioned way, I guess. I saw you move and push a button. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. Move to approve December 12, 2017 regular session minutes.
Second.
All right, let's vote. And that passes unanimously. Do I have a motion for December 19th?
December 19th.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Martin. It's seconded. Let's vote. And I'm guessing it doesn't say it, but that's going to pass unanimously. Oh, you mean for myself and Mayor Pro Tem to vote? And it did, but I was right. I called it unanimous. All right. And I'm trying to get a pen out of the bottom of my bag here. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. If we could go ahead and, City Manager, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, Council. I do have a quick report. A while back, we had some items from public safety applying for some grants. One was the lead grant, and the other was a co-responder grant. I wanted to let you know that today we were notified that we received those grants. The lead amount is $575,000 over the next 3 years, and the co-responder is $362,000 over the next 3 years. And that's really going at that broader philosophy of coordinated services in terms of how we interact with the public. Public safety staff will have a more in-depth presentation at a future council meeting, but I wanted to let you know we were notified today that we did receive it.
Congratulations. Councilmember Finley?
Thank you. Mayor Coombs, I had an agenda.
Mayor Coombs?
Mayor Coombs. Mayor Bagley.
I am always so thrilled.
Much taller than
Little taller, but not nicer. Not nicer.
I apologize.
No, none necessary, Councilmember Finley.
Is this where you'd like me to add things to agendas?
We're going to do that. Yeah, right.
skip
Is that what you want to do?
Yes.
Or are you going to comment on?
No, I think that's awesome, but I.
Okay, let's go ahead.
But we skipped that part where we had.
The only
agenda
question I
review.
have is who was responsible on staff for getting the grants?
Public safety staff, I know there was work with Mike and Karen Roney in terms of discussions on that. Dan Eman, I think, was the one that was primarily writing that grant. Dan Eman.
And who else?
Michelle Webb, Dan Eman.
Okay, well, way to go. I just wanted to make sure they get recognized. That's good work. Now, are there any agenda revisions or submission of documents or motions to direct staff or any other type of things you'd like to discuss, Ms. Finley?
Yes, there are.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. I attended a meeting about the Mayor's Challenge to End Veterans Homelessness, and would like to ask Council and the Mayor to put on the agenda the Mayor's Challenge to End Veterans Homelessness, to actually sign the official letter and get us in that process, and to assign someone from staff to attend those future meetings of this coalition to end veterans homelessness.
I guess my question is, do we have a date? Do we have a date yet?
Next meeting is January 26th at
Okay.
1 p.m. at the Longmont Association of Realtors Conference Room.
Okay, so I know that we passed, council indicated that we all wanted to do this, right? So is staff, you're Mr. Lewis.
Mayor Coombs, Sean Lewis, Assistant City Manager.
in here.
We
Just can't
included in
wait.
your agenda packet a few weeks ago an information item, just updating council on what we were going to do, help set up the meeting today. I forgot that I was going to be out of town until today on a delayed Christmas family vacation, and so I missed the meeting. But we can put that on your agenda for the next meeting. Kathy Fedler with Housing and Karen Roney with Community Services have both weighed in on kind of some of the pros and cons, which were included in that information item. But we'd be glad if you're ready to go ahead and put that on a future agenda.
If we could do that, that would be awesome.
Thank you.
Time frame?
Two meetings. Next meeting is the public forum. So it'll be the
So
meeting
2 meetings
after
from
that.
now?
Yep.
Is that okay with you guys? All right. Oh, I can see him. Councilmember Martin, you're right there. You're next. Councilmember Martin, you're up.
All right, I have 2 items that I would like to direct for the staff to do for a future agenda. One is that the city council feels that they do not have enough time for discussion, and so we would like to post a regular meeting, preferably early Friday morning, so that some people who have other things to do with their Fridays can get it over with. We'll post a probable agenda a week in advance once the staff gets set the locale and everything nailed down. So that's just a thing that we would like to direct staff to do. And the other thing is we have noted that the March 6th council meeting coincides with the caucus for both the Democratic and the Republican parties. Some of us would like to caucus, and so we would like you to look into a way to reschedule this for a subsequent meeting.
I guess the Councilmember Christian, or Mayor Pro Tem Christensen, I apologize. Sheesh. God. Mayor Pro Tem Coombs.
Yes. Perhaps we have done this before, where we've had a meeting on a Monday instead of the Tuesday when something happens like this. Not very often, because we don't want to do that very often. But this is sort of it is a. I would suggest that might be a possibility.
What do you guys think?
What we can do is, we would need to bring an item back to suspend council rules of procedure, so that you could change the date based on the council rules. It could be any other date during that week. I think what we'd want to do is to see what individual schedules are like.
Do we have consensus to ask city council to do that? Or I'm sorry, city staff to do that? traditionally, we've allowed everyone to go caucus. Okay. All right. Oh, Councilmember Peck. Oh, sorry. Got to raise your hand, Bonnie. Councilmember Peck.
There you go. On the two issues that Marcia brought up, yes, definitely on the caucus, and I think we've already given consensus on that. But as for the extra meeting that she is trying to set up, I'm for that. And okay, so let me ask just a couple of questions first to define what you're asking. First of all, are you asking for a weekly meeting on a Monday morning, or on a one morning a week, Friday, whatever staff works out? And my understanding is that we want to, or you are suggesting this so that we can meet and still comply with the Sunshine Law, because there are only 2 people can meet with the Sunshine, outside of the Sunshine Law, or 2. So in order for more than 2 of us to discuss any issue, we have to make it a public meeting and advertise it, post it as an ongoing public meeting. So personally, I think it's a good idea, because I've always wondered what the liaisons for these boards and commissions are hearing, and we never report on that. There's never any time in the agenda to see who went to what meetings that week and what are those boards and commissions talking about. Also, what's happening in your ward? Are you having the same questions that my constituents are asking? And just discuss among us things that we never really have time to discuss. Not necessarily a meeting, kind of like a council for coffee type of thing, where we can just discuss upcoming issues and then say we need to take this to staff, or we need to ask Eugene, or we need to ask Harold for a definition. And so I'm all for that, as far as getting it posted that we would have a weekly meeting or get together. It doesn't have to be a meeting necessarily, just a weekly get together for whoever wants to come on council.
So it's
Not necessarily a give and take with the public, but the public is invited.
Councilmember Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. Just to clarify some other things, I think we would not take votes or actions in this meeting, and that we would have recorded minutes or a staff to take minutes. But again, it would be informal. We would not make decisions. We would just clarify matters so that we got closer to decisions that we would then make on the regular council meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem Christensen.
I would suggest also that we perhaps, sorry. I would also suggest maybe we only need to do this every other week, and do it at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Because then it gets out of the way, and just confine it to maybe an hour or something like that. And it's just sort of to discuss these kind of debris I don't want to call it that, but topics that would bore the public even more than we already do. and the public would be able to come but not be able to speak, as is usually the case with a meeting like this. But if we have them before a regular meeting, which is when we will be doing actions, then we have a chance to get caught up on what different boards and commissions are discussing and what the issues are with that. And as Councilwoman Peck said, what different wards are talking about, and other very minor issues that we really don't have time, unless we're going to meet until midnight, to discuss here.
I guess.
Excuse me.
No, go ahead.
We don't really, to my mind, I go to a meeting sometimes at the senior center on Friday, which is really a lot of fun. And that we have a topic, but I think this is a useful format for anybody in something like this. Everyone is allowed to talk for 5 minutes, and we go around. And then the next round, you get to talk for 3 minutes, and then you go home. And that might be a very good way to handle something like this. It's something to consider anyway, to keep it brief and kind of businesslike.
So I would love to be able to get together with my council members informally and chit chat about stuff that's not necessarily even council related, and worry about being in danger of violating Colorado sunshine laws. So that's number one. Whether it be the most recent Star Wars movie, which I felt was awesome, incidentally. Or whether it be talking about our boards and commissions, so that's number one. I also think every week might be a little much, because on one hand I'd feel obligated to try to go, and when I didn't go I'd feel guilty. But every other week, I think would be good. And if we didn't show up, then we're still going once a month or whatever. And so that's another thought I had. And then the other thought, I guess, was just a question, which was, and I also don't think we should be dealing with votes or anything substantive, meaning I feel that this should be the forum with the television cameras on where we talk about, what are we going to do about X? We should do that where there's as many eyes as possible. And then the only question I have is, Harold's cranking over the microphone to Mr. May, and I guess my question is, what's your blood pressure like right now? And is this a good idea, bad idea? What's the legal counsel's input on this? Keeping in mind that 4 people get together for coffee, we need to post it.
Mayor and Council, Eugene May, City Attorney. So one thing that does come to mind is Council Rule Procedure 25, which seems to address all meetings of council. If council wants to make this a regular meeting, it might be helpful to amend the rules just to formalize it. And for me, the question is, when a quorum of council gets together, they could take final action. And the current rule of procedure says at study sessions, no formal final action will be taken. We could apply the same sort of language to this Friday meeting, just so it's, in council rules of procedure, the expectations are clear what is or isn't going to happen at that meeting. In terms of the open meetings law, posting obviously is necessary for compliance. That's 24 hours in advance. The open meetings law does require an agenda where possible. So I'm not sure how discussion topics are going to be formed in this meeting, and it could be a kind of work in progress to see how we can coordinate with staff and council and try to provide an agenda so that the public knows what topics might be talked about if they have particular interest. I mean, that's the whole intent of the open meetings law. So those are really my concerns, and if council, at least for the council rules of procedure, think that's a good idea, I can work on drafting an amendment to that. It does need to be introduced and then voted on, sort of a first and second reading, and I can get working on that.
Do we have consensus? All right, so
Okay.
you have consensus we're directing you to go ahead and draft something up.
Yeah, and then I think we post for open meeting purposes, and then just kind of see how the agenda and topics coalesce and what the timing is, and we can work with staff to get those posted.
This is the first time I want to point to the press who keeps us accountable and go, what do you think, John Fryer? So I'm only halfway kidding. So grab me after the meeting. I'd love to hear, the press or even the public's thought on that. Sorry, Councilmember Martin?
I was going to say we could have a standing agenda that would be reports on the board meetings of the week preceding, and then we could add items to it as needed.
So that was going to be my suggestion. Is one thing I did hear consistently is I heard a number of folks mention is reports from the board and commission meetings. The one thing I did want to clarify is Eugene said we would need to amend the council rules of procedure, which would take 2 readings, which is a little different than how this started out earlier in terms of doing it more quickly. So what I'm going to want to clarify with council is we want to go through and change the council rules of procedure before we do this. Is that correct?
whatever we need to do to get it legally done. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem? Hold on a second. I'm clearing y'all. Okay, go ahead. All right.
All right. So just to clarify, when you say second reading, do you mean, you don't mean that there would be any readings for anything here, because we're not going to discuss anything we'd act on. We're just, it's both basically a standing agenda is an informational meeting. When you're talking, when Harold, City Manager Dominguez.
I think there's two different things. To
Yeah.
amend the rules of procedure,
Yes.
it needs to be introduced, and then
Okay.
it needs to be voted on. So that's
Okay.
that's
Okay.
what I was talking about.
That's
for
what
two
you mean.
reading.
Okay, thank you.
And then just in terms of timing, I'm going to word it so that it's the Friday before the regular session. So it would sort of track 2 per month. And I see a lot of nodding heads.
But throw in a or when otherwise decided upon. Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley.
Thank you. It's a first. Sweet.
So just to clarify, we have 2 amendments to the procedure, one for the caucus to change the meeting to a Monday so that we can caucus, and this one for the Friday. So we're going to have 2 different amendments to the procedures.
Yes, one will work functionally a little bit different, like when we ask you to change the rules of procedure for a meeting. Another one will be more permanent that exists within the ongoing council rules and procedure. But yes.
And I view that it on that? Okay. So I guess the other thing, just on the January 30th, we're going to be talking about the ongoing, the various issues with Longmont Housing Authority in a public forum, correct?
Correct. That was when council indicated they wanted that on an agenda, and that's when we targeted that date for
Okay.
that
My
item.
question is, what is your understanding of, what's staff's understanding and council's understanding of what we will be discussing that night?
So what we were planning on doing is, so a couple of things have happened in this process. So one, I know when council requested this to be placed on the agenda, we were still in the middle of the conversations in terms of where we were as an organization related to the conversations with the ACLU. We also knew that we also were in the middle of disciplinary actions, and we had to take all of that into account, and we needed to get those things done and meet the intent of the settlement agreement with the ACLU and release the Weld County report. So when all of that came into play and we looked at the timing of this, we felt that the 30th was there. So in terms of what we were planning on doing is giving a general overview in terms of, here's the history of the LHA, here's what they've been doing. We were then going to allow them to talk a little bit about their operations and what they do, and then basically open it up to council, because I think now the report's been made public. You can ask us questions regarding that, regarding our piece. Obviously, as staff, we can't answer questions related to the Longmont Housing Authority staff, but they would have the opportunity to answer that.
So they'll be here? They'll be here?
That's the plan. I know we received some information this week where there was some question about do we need to do it on the 30th? I think based on council's desire to do this, my comment to that was the council's been asking for this. I think the 30th is we need to stick with that date. Eugene and I have been talking, depending on the nature of the questions, there may be the need, if there's legal advice requested, for us to potentially have an executive session to have that conversation. Again, we've been talking about it. Eugene and I have been talking about it. He just indicated there's some new information, so we need to get back together to look at that piece.
And I guess the other question I have for you, Mr. May, as our attorney, isn't it true that if I were to ask you questions specifically about Longmont Housing Authority, even those are attorney-client privileged? Meaning if I were to ask you legal questions right now, even my communication to you would be privileged, especially my communication to you.
Especially you, Mayor.
Especially.
But yes, attorney-client
Right? Okay.
communications are privileged.
Okay, so we can ask you legal questions offline, and
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, depending upon the nature of the questions and maybe depending upon the conversation on January 30th, we might be able to determine whether an executive session with the entire council is appropriate or not.
okay. Is there any comments, questions, or concerns about that? Are we all, Mayor Pro Tem, you good with that?
Yes. We do need to have a discussion about that.
Okay, but that process works for you? Wait till the 30th and then go from there?
Yes, I would prefer to have an executive session first, but this will be okay.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, and then the folks here for the Martin Luther King proclamation, can we do that last? Switch it? Because that's in my mind, that's the big one. So give you a little bit extra time, because I don't want to push you aside. We got radon to talk about. So this is a proclamation designated. Are the people here who asked for this proclamation? Okay, all right. So you want to come to the podium while I read it? And then have you prepared a statement? Awesome. So this is a proclamation designating the month of January 2018 as Radon Action Month in Longmont, Colorado. Whereas radon is an invisible, odorless, radioactive gas that threatens the health of our citizens and their families, and whereas radon is likely the leading environmental cause of cancer mortality in the U.S. and the 8th leading cause of cancer mortality overall, and whereas the Colorado Rocky Mountain region has been ranked Zone 1, an area with the highest radon potential possible by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and whereas Colorado residential radon data has shown 50% of Colorado homes tested as being at or above the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency radon action level of 4.0 PCIL, picocuries per liter of air, and whereas any home in Longmont, Colorado may have elevated levels of radon, even if homes in the same neighborhood do not, and whereas testing for radon is simple and inexpensive, and whereas identified radon problems can be fixed, and whereas Boulder County Public Health, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the American Lung Association are supporting efforts to encourage Americans to test their homes for radon, have elevated levels of radon reduced, and have new homes built with radon-resistant features. Now, therefore, I, Brian J. Bagley, Mayor, by virtue of the authority vested in me, and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim the month of January 2018 as Radon Action Month in Longmont, and invite all to be aware of and mitigate this harmful gas.
I'm Susan Martino with Boulder County Public Health Radon Program, and I'm also a project coordinator for the Front Range Public Health Regional Radon Roadmap Project. We want to thank you for supporting our efforts to reduce lung cancer caused by radon exposure by approving the 2018 Radon Proclamation and by adopting radon-resistant building codes in 2009. As part of National Radon Action Month, we're asking elected officials and their staff to review a forthcoming menu of radon programs and policies that can be used to further radon awareness in their community. Would you be able to look at the radon programs and policies document when it becomes available?
Sure.
Thank you. Again, thank you. And now I'm going to play a short radon video that was developed as part of our Public Health Regional Radon Roadmap Project.
Just out of curiosity, I'm known for this. How short is it?
It's 1 minute.
Oh, that's plenty. We're good to go. If you would have said 57 minutes, I'm like, well, it all depends.
Specifically for you.
Yeah, sure, great. Thank you.
But I need to be able to click on it on the desktop. So, thank you. So it's right here. Is it going to go? Come on.
We had been together for 25 years.
Colorado happens to be one of the worst states for radon levels.
It's in our ground and it seeps up.
Radon is a naturally occurring gas which occurs in the crust of the earth.
The more you breathe radon, the more chance you have of DNA being hit and the cell mutated.
Aside from smoking, it is the leading cause of lung cancer.
I worked in a home office. That's what resulted in my cancer.
Wheezing, shortness of breath, those kinds of symptoms, so people don't necessarily go to the doctor.
He was only 58 years old when he passed away, and we had a 13-year-old son.
Thank you.
Very effective. Thank you. But
Mayor,
do we have radon tests?
We do. That's one of the things I wanted to add is that you can check those radon tests out at the library. And then one of the things that was also, and when we look at our sustainability plan, they were looking at expanding that program and also looking at adding carbon monoxide detectors to folks, to individuals' homes. So I wanted to reiterate, they do exist at the library and folks can check them out.
All right. So repeating one more time, go to the library, check out a radon test, and apparently save yourself from lung cancer. All right. Now, if I could invite the folks who are here for the, Mayor Pro Tem Christensen.
I would also like to see us consider urging people when they build new buildings to build radon-resistant buildings. My house has 4 times the level of radon. And it's very nice to test things, but for low-income people, it's very difficult to afford to actually fix it because it's $2,500 or more. And so if we build things right in the first place, we have less problems. And if we can find some way to offer some financial assistance to people who are trying to mitigate it, it would be very useful.
Do you mind if we take a picture? Do you want a picture in the proclamation?
That would be fine. I was going to answer the Mayor Pro Tem's what she was saying. Actually, the State Health Department is going to be having a new program for mitigation for low-income residents. So that should be coming this year.
Okay, great to know. So, you want the picture?
Sure.
All right, council, come on. Everybody. I will never take a single picture while I'm mayor without council. Now we'll do Martin Luther King. Oh, but someone stole our proclamation. I'll trade you one radon for one Martin Luther King. Hopefully nobody will zoom in on that picture. All right. Do you want to say something first, or do you want to read the proclamation first? It's your call.
It's up to you. Let us say something.
All right,
Let
great.
us say what we'll say. To Mayor Brian Bagley, congratulations.
Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem Polly Christensen, council members, City of Longmont staff, ladies and gentlemen. Madeline Strong Woodley and I, that would be her, Glenda Strong Robinson, are extremely grateful to accept this proclamation on behalf of the Longmont Martin Luther King Committee, the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee, and the community at large, in the spirit of love and unity in the community. Thank you, Mayor Bagley and City Council members, for your continued support in this effort. We really do appreciate it. We're here tonight all because of the sacrifices that have been made by many of our forefathers, the shoulders on which we stand, and we have a long legacy of living and long-standing people. We honor Dr. King because he made the ultimate sacrifice by giving his life for the cause of liberty and justice for all. And so we're thankful to be a part of a community that does embrace Dr. King's legacy. On a personal note, it's hard for me to believe that 50 years ago, as a foot soldier of the civil rights movement, I was there. I'm deeply moved by the progress that I see. However, as a people, we are challenged for the work that lies ahead. Yet we're encouraged and inspired by Dr. King's soul-stirring, heart-gripping messages to continue the fight for freedom in the spirit of love and peace. So on behalf of my sister Madeline and myself, we humbly accept the proclamation that you're presenting to us in honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I'd like to just review some of the activities that will be taking place this weekend. We've grown the event to a 3-day event, including tonight, 4 days. So on Friday, we have collaborated with Silver Creek High School's award-winning bands and choirs. So we're bringing the old with the young. And we're going to have a very, very exciting time. They will be performing. We also have a dramatic piece that you will learn, you will enjoy, and it's going to touch your hearts. Now, that's on Friday night. We're calling that's a night in the arts. On Saturday, at Second Baptist Church, there's a Courageous Care Forum. And I'll pass these out so you can, or leave some for you. CARE stands for Conversation, Action, Reflection, Empowerment. And that's a panel that will be held at the church at 9:00 a.m. on Saturday morning until 11 a.m. And it concludes with a pancake breakfast. And then, of course, Monday. That is the actual day, Dr. King's actual birthday, January 15th. And starting at 9:00, the Silver Creek Leadership Academy will do a service project, either to homeless or to the women's shelter, just in support of them. And at 10:00, the festivities begin. And we will start with the program. Again, it's going to involve all of the choirs. It's a collaboration that has been a real joy to do. And we have a keynote speaker this year. And that keynote speaker is attorney Rodney K. Strong of Atlanta, Georgia. He is internationally known, and he's coming to just speak to Longmont and all of the others, people that will be there to enjoy that. So that's Friday night, Saturday morning, and Monday morning. Okay. Did I forget anything?
No, I just want to mention, Adriana handed me these, and I think each of you got them as you came in. But they're presented by the Anti-Defamation League, and they're positive impact calendars. So there are many, many positive phrases in there that we need to take heed of and acknowledge. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. So with that, let me go ahead and read this proclamation. This is a proclamation designating the week of January 15th to the 19th, 2018 as All Cultures, One Voice, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. through community involvement in Longmont, Colorado. Whereas January 15th, 2018 marks the Dr. Martin L. King, Jr. holiday, in which we honor Dr. King's unwavering fight for the absence of oppression and the presence of opportunity for all, who sacrificed to sow the seeds for a movement of peace, equality, and justice. And whereas across the nation, in the state, and in the city of Longmont, honoring Dr. King has become a day of service to our communities, Events held in Longmont beginning on January 12th are made possible by many dedicated volunteers from diverse backgrounds coming together to share the importance of the civil rights movement and the need to take action. And whereas this will be a week of celebration, tribute, education, service, and solidarity, an opportunity for the community to come together and to commemorate the life, work, and legacy of Dr. King, and to promote a caring and inclusive community that is proud to embrace, respect, and celebrate each other. And whereas we are also honoring Mrs. Glenda S. Robinson and Mrs. Madeline S. Woodley for their passion, compassion, and commitment in sharing the importance of the civil rights movement, Dr. King's legacy, and keeping the dream alive for future generations in Longmont. Now, therefore, I, Brian J. Bagley, Mayor, by virtue of the authority vested in me and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim the week of January 15th through the 19th, 2018, as, quote, All Cultures, One Voice, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. through community involvement, end quote, in Longmont, and invite all to attend the events honoring Dr. King, Jr. Good job. We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Come on, Bonnie.
I leave these.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Take one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to public invited to be heard. Let's go ahead and start with our very own beloved Karen Dyke.
I know I come here often with that.
Hello, Ms. Dyke. How are you?
Hello. Karen Dyke, 708 Hayden Court. Mr. Mayor and council members. Tonight, the council votes on a resolution for 100% renewable energy. I want to thank you for giving us hope. I'm speaking not just for our Ready for 100 group, but also for the future of my grandchildren. This resolution gives us hope that we can be part of the solution for climate change. It was hard to have hope when we saw the beginnings of climate change and knew that our federal government was still in denial. People in this community stepped up and said, we want to stop contributing to climate change and find a way to help. We can have hope that we can say no to fracking and its pollution in our community because we are resolved to make fossil fuel a thing of the past. Also, this offers hope of an improved economy that drives down the cost of electricity generation for residents and businesses. A recent wind power contract by the Platte River Power Authority is forecast to reduce wholesale rates by 2.5 to 5%. There is also hope for jobs as new, safer, and less polluting jobs are created. Hope is also given to those who are economically disadvantaged that we won't leave them behind as we move forward. And perhaps the best hope of all is for our democracy. It is difficult to have hope in our system of government recently. We see that individual citizens have had very little influence while big donors are listened to. When we see a partisan divide that doesn't function, it is hard to be optimistic. This resolution tonight gives me hope that residents can say, here is what we need, and that a solution that gives voice to the hope that we all hold is realized. Thank you sincerely for this resolution of hope. Thanks also to a fantastic renewable energy team. Some of them are here tonight. That also makes me hopeful for what we can accomplish when we work together to achieve what is best for our community and for our world. Thank you very sincerely.
I'm going to have, as much as that's cool, I'm going to have to ask that we don't applaud and whatnot, because that's apparently what we do. So, all right, Roger Ranking.
Mayor Bagley, City Council, appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. I want to also address the 100% renewable energy by 2030. I'm Dr. Roger Reinking. I'm a retired atmospheric scientist, and I understand the problem. Right here, Time Magazine, 1 January 2018. The Earth faces a climate reckoning, so does the plan to save it.
Dr. Rankin, could you lift your microphone up a little bit so we could hear you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Does that work?
Yep, it does.
Okay. The planet has been warmer before. We wouldn't have oil in the Arctic if there weren't green plants there that decayed. But it goes through cycles that are a function of Earth's orbit, Earth's tilt. Right now, we're experiencing a record climate warming. That's an extreme, and it's the only one that's happened during the existence of humans. We as scientists have expressed our position. You know what that is. It's human-caused by our fossil fuel burning, our emissions in large part. I would say also that all but one of the United Nations stands with us, 5,000 scientists around the globe. When scientists get something published, they're not politicians. They go through a rigorous review process, and exaggeration is the last thing to make the cut. The facts that scientists determine them are usually conservative estimates. It is a conservative estimate that sea level will rise by 3 to 7 feet by the end of the century. Think about that. The rate of warming is not so obvious. It's kind of a stealth killer. But it is measured, and it's much faster than anything in discernible history, and by that I mean several 100,000 years. Carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas has been known for that effect since more than a century. And its effect is not guesstimated, it's not hypothesized, but it's measured. Climate warming now is happening too much and too fast for humans to deal with it. We are the problem, and we appeal to reason and the facts. There is no basis, no place for denial. Deniers and their children are not exempt. I would urge the fossil fuel industry to get on board, help us to find a way to capture carbon if we're going to continue to burn fossil fuels. CO2 once emitted, go ahead.
I'm going to have to cut you off. That's 3 minutes, but we appreciate your remarks and your knowledge. Thank you.
I have a copy of a letter I wrote to Senator Matt Jones.
Could you please give that to the city clerk, and we'll make sure we all read that?
Thank you.
Thank you. And just a reminder, at 3 minutes, I'll cut everybody off no matter how awesome you're doing. And Stanley Toll, my newest Facebook friend. And I'm not kidding.
Yes, my name's Stan Toll. I'm a homeowner here in the city of Longmont. And the reason I'm before this council, there was something in the paper, and I don't know if it's something about you doing something with a parking regulation for people that are using vehicles as residents. Is that happening tonight, or because I just saw that in the paper, and so one of the, I have a couple of questions on that. That you've enacted this law against, when somebody thinks somebody's vehicle, they don't like it in a particular spot, and they can call the police and have it marked up. And when you get one of those little tags, it says, well, you've been warned, and let's say if you don't follow this regulation or something, your vehicle can be impounded. One of the questions is that I went and tried to go to the court and get a hearing on that, because I was wondering, what is the I was trying to get some sort of ruling on the court, because there's some weird things about it. It's like, it's saying that your property can be impounded at it, if you're deemed to have, let's say, violated, let's say not, somebody claims that the vehicle wasn't moved far enough, that your vehicle can be impounded. So, I have a couple of questions. I don't know what I saw in the paper for sure. It sounded like they're considering saying that certain people don't have the same rights to use the public streets as others, that if the vehicle is, let's say, too close to where it was in the past, that it's going to be impounded. And so, the two questions I have, is there any effort being made to actually contact the people being affected by this law, if it's being changed? I think there's notification requirements. I don't know the exact, but I was here at other hearings where they had a big hullabaloo about not proper notice to property owners.
Thank you, Mr. Toll. We can let's talk offline, okay? All right. Abby Driscoll and Sean. Sean's not coming down. Sound out on an opportunity, Sean. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name's Abby Driscoll. I live at 1304 Lupine Court. I think we're supposed to say that. Chair of the Board of Sustainable Resilient Longmont, and we've been working over the past year on our campaign to, in support of the city transitioning to commit to 100% renewable energy goal. And I'm here tonight to encourage the council to support the resolution that's before you. I believe it's item number 8G on the agenda. The resolution that supports this goal. I don't have any prepared comments, but I just want to say, this makes not only environmental sense, but economic sense. We're gonna be coming out with some numbers to some more specifics. All the data shows all the trends economically as far as the energy costs are heading in the right direction. Battery storage costs are heading in the right direction. So I think this is just the wave of the future, and so if we are intent now in setting a goal for the future, we can, plan proactively to be part of that change. So that's the way that I see it. I just want to make a couple comments about the power of the grassroots. We have a president who, appointed an oil executive to head the EPA, ended the ban recently on offshore drilling. At the state legislature level, we can't even get common sense regulations passed, or common sense things like keeping oil executives off the commission that's supposed to regulate oil and gas. I think this shows to me that we have to act at the local level to make change. And this campaign has been about empowering the people of Longmont, and we do have our renewable energy campaign shirts here, if people want to stand up. And, this is about empowering the people of Longmont to have a voice, and I'm so proud of that, because that has just been so empowering for me to watch, that this group with Karen Dyke's leadership in a partnership with the Sierra Club has been able to capture what I think the citizens of Longmont as a majority want, and really put that into motion and represent that. So the president may have the power of the pulpit, but we have the power of the people. And, the other thing is climate change did not happen overnight. Okay, and we can't turn this around overnight and just all of a sudden shut down all of our plants and like this and like a switch. This is going to take time, planning, proper goal setting, and so the goal setting is the first step to see this to fruition over time. So, I'm so proud of the grassroots movement we've built over the last year. I fully support the City Council moving forward with this resolution. I want to say one more thing. You're cutting me off.
Yeah,
social equity.
Okay,
we've got to do social
equity forever. Thank you.
you.
All right, Dennis Batchelor.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley, Mayor Pro Tem Christensen, and council members. I'd actually like to address the topic of short-term rentals. As I understand it, there's a recent change in direction regarding short-term rentals. I was here about a year ago. I'm sorry, my name is Dennis Batchelor. Address is 3032 McIntosh Drive. And I was here requesting reasonable regulations for a recent trend towards short-term rentals, whether it's Airbnb or similar types of websites that recreate a marketplace for these types of things. I read recently in the Longmont Observer, I believe, or longmontobserver.com, a great source for local news. And I bet there's some specific changes. One is related to restricting the number of short-term rentals on a one per block basis, and another one related to an inspection prior to the licensing for these short-term rentals. And before I actually get into those topics, I'd actually like to promote the positive aspects of Airbnb. I've been an Airbnb host since 2013. I've seen quite a number of guests come through my door, and I've had a fantastic experience with each and every one of them. Well, maybe but one. And as a process of interacting with these folks from all around the world, I've met people from Australia, Malaysia, Japan, China. It's just been a really good experience. And I've also seen probably 4 of those same folks become residents of Longmont. And I just happen to think that's a great way to invite and then also welcome in new residents. When I read about the changes here, I thought it was going to be difficult to enforce a 1 per block restriction. Of course, we can enforce that through licensing. But then again, we're also increasing the cost of the Airbnb or other short-term rental hosting process, which will also increase the cost of the short-term rental for the guest who is coming to stay. I think that may just deter the number of folks who are coming here. And just as an example, I noticed when Boulder increased their restrictions, we saw an influx of new people, or actually an increase of numbers of people coming to stay with us. So it's kind of a trickle-down effect, I believe, is what would typically happen as we drive up those costs. I think it would also potentially drive underground some of the activity of short-term rentals, which is probably not what you're trying to create. But I also specifically want to mention that I live in a neighborhood where we could easily accommodate more than 1 per block, but maybe there's other parts of town that would be difficult. I understand that. I'm just, again, requesting reasonable regulations around the short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Batchelor. John Coe?
Good evening, Mayor Bagley and Council. My name is John Coe. I live at 1899 3rd Avenue, and I provided a copy of some paperwork for all of you through the city clerk. I wanted to refer to that briefly. I was actually going to start off with a letter that I received recently that was very nice. I'm going to start with the positive thing and keep on going positive for a bit here. But it basically says, I found your wallet. I dropped my wallet in Roosevelt Park, and somebody found my wallet and hung it on my doorknob because they looked at my wallet after trying to contact me. They hung it on my doorknob with all the cash, all the credit cards in it, everything. And that is the kind of town we have. And I want to tell you that that is the kind of town we need to keep having. And we do. And we're isolated a little bit from other communities, and that's a good thing. And this town helped me raise my 2 great kids. So on the first page also is my water certificate that I bought this year to connect onto the Taylor Denio ditch. And the meeting is tomorrow. And so I actually just brought my plans only to kind of flash in front of you, but basically I have to apply to the ditch company, and there's an 8-page access agreement that I have to abide by, but I have been able to purchase this. But on to the second page in the larger type, which is a story that I think one of you heard 20 years ago, and I don't think many of you knew me 20 years ago, but Councilmember Martin actually worked with me 20 years ago and may have heard this story, and it basically goes that well, you can read it for yourself. But basically one morning I was out in my backyard, and the gentleman next door who happens to live in the county was looking around, and I asked him what was going on, and he said, I lost a turtle. And in looking around, there was a turtle in one of my depressions in my house, and so I says, yes, it's on my yard, but please don't hunt it. Well, that didn't happen that way. And he called the county and the city, and the county came and immediately turned it over around to, let's call the city police. But anyway, that's 20 years ago. But this was in the midst of a land acquisition, and I brought to you also the letter from Mr. Slavin, and I brought a letter that Mr. Slavin wrote me very recently. And there's a letter attached here from Mr. Slavin dedicating the folks here to cooperation. And I'm in my final part here, but I just want to wrap this up with, attached on the final page is a picture of the fence that they sent to the city saying they didn't like my fence. And now in my about 3 times a summer complaints from the city, which all these people in the county can complain, and there's no regulations in the county right across parallel to me on West 3rd Avenue, I'm being told to build a fence now because anything that anybody calls junk is junk. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coe. Jeffrey Justice. Yes, I do not know. Are we Facebook friends, John Coe? No, we are not. There we go. Shoot me a friend request.
City Council members, Mayor Bagley, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My topic is the aggressive dog and public safety in the 1600 block of Metropolitan, which isn't far from where I live in Ward 1. As most of you know, on December 5th, a Mastiff-type dog owned by Jason Escobedo and Charmaine Cardenas got loose and brutally and viciously attacked a small poodle that was being walked by Ann Kelly down in the 1600 block of Metropolitan. No Longmont resident needs to experience something like that. I know you have a dog, Mayor. I saw the picture in the campaign literature. It looks like it's a part of your family. And I think most of us feel the same way. No one deserves to go out and walk their dog and have it brutally and viciously attacked by some big dog like that. When the police got there, which had to have been minutes, that same dog was chasing 2 other dogs, one small and one big. And thankfully, Longmont police is well trained in animal encounters. They were able to get this dog away, and with less lethal means, just they got the dog, put it in a car, and stopped any further incidents. If this was Aurora, they would have just shot that dog. Our cops are great. But still, it was chasing other dogs. So this could have been even a worse disaster. Then the owners say, well, it was just an accident. An accident is when someone's dog gets out and digs up the neighbor's flower pots in the flower bed, not brutally attacking and killing the neighbor's dog. They say, the one man says it wasn't aggressive, but it turns out in the police report, which is much worse than the Times Call article on this incident, You should read it. It turns out that they got another boxer puppy that this big mastiff doesn't get along with. They fight. They have to be separated. And the woman said that that might be one of the reasons it attacked this dog. So there's problems down there. And I just wonder now, are we safe? Okay, I don't know what's being done now. Is the dog under quarantine? Has the dog been evaluated by a professional behaviorist? Is this house safe for this dog and this boxer puppy to live in conditions like that where they're fighting? And is this yard secured so that this isn't going to happen again? So I just ask the maximum penalty be imposed on this reckless dog owner, and maybe our ordinances aren't strong enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Justice. Michael Belmont. Guitar free.
Good evening, Mayor Bagley, council members. Michael Belmont, 841 Tenacity Drive in Longmont. We were born into an abusive family. All of us, no exception. We were given little choice in the matter of whether we would rely upon transportation powered by fossil fuels. We were given no choice in how our products were packaged with fossil fuel sourced wrappings, or that most every product we were trained to consider as a necessity would be manufactured by using fossil fuel energy, and in many cases actually composed of crude oil. To quote from the 60s movie The Graduate, just one word: plastics. There's a great future in plastics. Think about it. End quote. We now know what that future is, for we live in it. And it is dire, it is deadly, and the slim chance for our very survival depends on our choices today. In short, most of us, certainly at the local level, had no vote, no input, and no control over the fact that our entire culture revolves around the burning of fossil fuels. Thus, my premise that we were born into an abusive family. Welcome to the family of fossil fuel addicts. I needn't expound upon what effectively every climate change scientist in the world has concluded, that we are fatally fouling our own nest, the earth itself, right down to our local Longmont level, by continuing down this road. What is the responsible thing to do when one finds him or herself in such a situation? Now, we all know that the healthy option is to expose the problem, be honest about it, call it out, and most importantly, to make a commitment to healing, correcting the destructive behavior. For we citizens of Longmont, in our small corner of this precious world, that starts with publicly expressing our intention through such an act as passing the resolution before you tonight to make Longmont 100% powered by safe, renewable, life-saving energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belmont. Terry Goon.
My name is Terry Goon, and I live at 741 Martin Street here in East Side Old Town. And I think it's great that we live in such a beautiful, safe, and well-run city as Longmont, and I applaud you and the city staff for that. Next on the agenda, we have as a city turn towards something that can affect people and city goals adversely, however, namely moving directly to 100% sustainability without some other options used for a transition. I live in a section of the city where 2010 demographic average household income was below $30,000. Two of my neighbors have 3 generations living in smaller homes, and a Vietnam vet up the way is often sharing his home with multiple roommates in order to help his situation. No one is complaining about this, but it points out that money can be tight. I chose my own home 20 years ago because I could afford it. With similar income from those days, I would probably buy in Fort Lupton due to Longmont's housing and utility costs. During the many forums we had leading up to the election, We heard concerns about both diversity and affordability, and here's where we can really make a difference. Going forward, our water bills will be increasing soon by a total of 19%. Our trash bills increased in 2017, and now we are talking about the electric service. Platte River Power Authority has not calculated rate increases within their models. This concerns me. Rate increases will be required, and those on fixed incomes can't plan for increases when we are willing to jump our bills by large percentages. Our climate, as it changes, is not reliable. This winter, the eastern seaboard is feeling a giant cold snap. In Vermont, where much of the state is already 100% sustainable, they have turned to wood burning for dependable heat, which has been discouraged here in the drier west, thus leaving homes without a backup plan. Utility companies in Massachusetts are currently using gas or oil to keep the electric grid going right now. All of this is a balance. There are costs to the types of sustainable energy systems presented. Aspen is 100% renewable, but 46% of that is hydroelectric. Rain and snow levels here are not consistent, and dams are impactful to the environment. Wind energy kills more birds than you would expect, and the sound and vibration effects on wildlife are substantial. I speak to you not as a person who wants to see a fracked well on every corner, but as a person who loves her mixed neighborhood of people. I'd like to keep Longmont affordable. We are blessed to be able to consider sustainable options, but price, diversity, dependability, and affordability need to be part of your calculations before signing up. Since we are naturally moving this direction as a city, adding a voluntary surcharge in order to choose solar, wind, or hydro on our bills would allow for this movement to continue without adversely affecting Longmont's working poor and without dismissing climate change problems. Excel has given us the options as a model to work from, and so Longmont really could do the same sort of thing as an interim step. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Goon. Aaron Sharp.
Mayor, council members, I'm here to support the resolution for 100% renewable energy. The city of Longmont and its council members will take a tremendous step forward, joining our sister cities Pueblo and Boulder, as well as cities and communities worldwide, by voting to transition towards a 100% clean energy city, and be the visionaries who enacted a future toward creating clean energy, local jobs, cleaner air, saving our blue sky days, saving our homes and businesses money, and we will be creating a more resilient economy during economic downtimes. A transition such as this is going to take time, take much reflection, but we do know now that clean, renewable energy resources are abundant and have the potential to meet all of our energy needs, such as solar, which is now the least expensive option on average for new electricity capacity around the world. Cleaner, cheaper, healthier energy is here, and it's time for leaders not only across America, but we all need to commit personally to a 100% clean and renewable energy. Not only for all, but the city of Longmont will be among these leading communities now that will rank among the most livable cities once this is enacted, and whose use of clean energy will create clean transportation infrastructures. One area that I am specifically working in is off-grid solar electric vehicle charging stations, allowing electric vehicle owners to use solar and battery to charge up versus the grid. As an entrepreneur, I look at models on a daily basis on cost ratios, and we're finding now that we're able to produce these types of energies and these economies for extraordinarily great return on investments, sometimes within 6 to 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Bima Bacchus.
Bima Bacchus, 2138 Lincoln Street, Longmont. You guys have already been told a million times that climate change is happening. A lot of you probably already believe that. I don't need to tell you that. But I think there's a lot of stuff that gets left out of the conversation. One thing in terms of the wind turbines, they do kill a lot of flying animals, birds and bats. But the amount that they've been killing per wind turbine has gone down drastically in the last 10 years since this problem was identified, and it will continue to go down. And clean energy sources, the numerous ones that are available, kill way less animals, even without the improvements that have been made, compared to oil and coal and gas, just from the pollution and the warming of the air, but also when you consider the land usage. Clean energy typically will use less land per watt, although that always depends on the implementation. I'd also like to specify the human cost to fossil fuels that's going on right now. Currently, millions of people die from pollution every year. Hundreds of thousands more are killed from other global warming related incidents. It's estimated that within the next 15 to 20 years, hundreds of millions of people are going to be permanently evacuated from their homes, whether that's because the ocean levels are rising for cities like, obviously, Miami and New York, but in other places, I think like over 50% of the world's population is on the coast. And then there's other places where it's just going to be too warm. Even if you're like in southern India, or even in Texas, and maybe you're not on the coast, but at some point you're not going to be able to grow enough food, and the summers are going to get up to 130, and people are also going to have to be moved. We want to try to minimize as much as possible. Other people have emphasized the economic benefits of going to 100% clean energy. Right now, 55% of our coal is imported from Wyoming alone. Bringing jobs here, especially when housing costs are as high as they are, could help to strengthen Colorado's economy. And I also want to emphasize that it's very important that Longmont in particular takes action on here, because our federal government, in my opinion, is owned by Republicans who are too focused on their own careers to take action on this. Our state government is the same, Republicans in the state Senate, coal oil Democrats in the state House. So especially if we can influence other cities, like as far as Minnesota, people have looked at Boulder and said, this is a good idea. If we can influence other cities to take this action, I think that's huge. We can have a big domino effect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bacchus. Dr. Ken Huey.
A council member, Ken Huey, 1405 Clover Creek Drive. A council member named Aaron, not to be confused with our own council member Rodriguez, got a text from his next door neighbor that said, I am feeling very guilty and I need to confess. For 6 months, when you're away at work, I've been helping myself to your wife and I don't know what to do about it. The council member went over and began bashing in the car of this neighbor with a baseball bat as he got another text that he quickly looked at that said, Wi-Fi, exclamation point. My stupid autocorrect, it should have said Wi-Fi. Time release joke, yeah. So I was helping myself to your Wi-Fi. So sometimes we don't quite have all of the facts, and we get started down a road and don't get a chance to really know what's going on. I was out of the country here not too long ago, and a conditional use process as part of residential recovery was tabled. Understand, but for reasons that I've detailed in an email, that effectively simply would just kill the opportunity for a very good residential recovery center to be here. And what I'm asking is that be reconsidered, simply put back on the table. I'd rather have the debate happen and have it killed outright permanently than to table it, because that just is death by default and there's really no reason to do that. We're better off to think it through now all the way. We have somewhere on the order of 200 plus liquor stores in the city. I think 7 or so marijuana shops. We have 0 residential recovery centers in the city. We have a few group homes, but that's not the full-fledged kind of recovery that I'm talking about. I'm asking that somebody who was on there are only 2 that voted not to table it. One of the 4 that did table it, if you would please simply put it back forth so that we can discuss it fully. My company can give a full accounting of who we are. Anybody that wants to disagree with us is fine, can do that. I can promise we would have plenty of people from the community in support of what I'm talking about, and I promise we will not steal your Wi-Fi or your significant other. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Huey. Mr. Strider Benston. Benston. Mr. Benston.
Thank you. Strider Benston, 951 West 17th, and I have a connection with almost everyone who has spoken, although I don't have Wi-Fi. So on the dog thing, you know, we had a previous mayor whose dog attacked a neighbor's dog, so there's a lot of things that go on. Stan has been, we kind of shared his car home for about 20 years, and now he has it, so it has to be somewhere. The oil stuff, ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council, centered on North Carolina to destroy that state, and Bishop William Barber started a movement, the Moral Monday movement, in his book, The Third Reconstruction, to deal with that. And they're starting a poor people's campaign on Mother's Day in, I think, 13 states. So Bishop Barber is the nearest thing to Martin Luther King that we have in this country or in this world. I am giving the Martin Luther King sermon at Longmont United Church of Christ this Sunday at 10:15, 9th and Francis. Y'all come if you want to. And my title is, But What is the Question? And I wasn't going to answer it, but then I picked up Martin's last book again. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Perhaps that is the question. I'm going to be on the panel at Second Baptist Church in Boulder on Saturday. And I think I might be in the program on Monday, but they haven't told me. They told me I was going to be in it, but nobody's called me, so I'm not sure. So anyway, at Silver Creek. And just to be ecumenical, on the 28th, I'm going to give a talk at Central Presbyterian. They're having a year-long session on racism, 10:45 in the morning, and I'm going to be discussing the book Just Mercy. I consider that kind of significant because it was my home Presbyterian church in Malvern, Arkansas that tried to lynch me 53 years ago when I got back from Alabama, and it was pretty hard times, so I haven't really spoken in a Presbyterian church for the last 53 years. But it is an open group, so y'all come if you wish to. Thank you much.
Thank you, Mr. Benston. And then finally, we have Garrett Garner. Garrett Garner Wells.
It's the name that keeps going, Mr. Mayor.
It does indeed.
It does. My name is Garrett Garner Wells. I'm the Director of Environment Colorado. I'm not based here in Longmont, but a number of our members are. And I'm here tonight to urge you to pass this evening's resolution in favor of 100% renewable energy. This is a conversation that's happening not just across Colorado, but around the country. And, you know, it sounds like you're moving in the right direction. This summer, we actually knocked on 12,000 doors here in Longmont, talking to folks face-to-face, in part about 100% renewable energy. And we heard overwhelming support from here in the community. So, you do have that support from your constituents, and I do urge you to move forward on this matter and to vote yes on this resolution this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break and come back in less than 5 minutes.
Mayor Bagley, are you ready for the consent agenda?
We sure are. If you could read those off.
First item on consent is ordinance 2018-05, a bill for an ordinance amending chapters 11.12 and 11.16 of the Longmont Municipal Code relating to impoundment and abandoned, publicly kept, or junk vehicles. Public hearing and second reading is scheduled for January 23. Item 8B is ordinance 2018-06, a bill for an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 2.08, creating a new Section 165 of the Longmont Municipal Code regarding a voluntary juvenile redirection program. Public hearing and second reading scheduled for January 23rd. Item 8C is Resolution 2018-01, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the City and the 20th Judicial District for a Victim Assistance and Law Enforcement Grant. Item 8D is Resolution 2018-02, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the City and the City of Colorado Springs for an Internet Crimes Against Children grant. Item 8E is Resolution 2018-03, finding that the petition for annexation of parcels of land located in Boulder County, State of Colorado, known as the HMS Rogers Road, generally located between Rogers Road and Nelson and between Hover Road and Airport Road, substantially complies with the Colorado Revised Statutes 3112-1071. Item 8F is Resolution 2018-04, finding that the petition for annexation of parcels of land located in Boulder County, State of Colorado, known as the SVVSD Quail Road annexation, generally located on the south side of Quail Road, west of Main Street and east of 119th Street, substantially complies with the Colorado Revised Statutes, Section 3112-1071. Item 8G is Resolution 2018-05, a resolution of the City Council in support of utilizing 100% renewable energy sources for Longmont's electrical energy supply by 2030. And item 8H is designate the bulletin boards outside the City Council chambers and the west entrance of the Civic Center as the official City Council agenda posting locations. Staff does not have a need to pull any items.
All right. Are there any items that we'd like to pull in debate? Councilmember Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. I would like to remove item G from the consent agenda.
Councilmember Peck.
I would like to remove item A, 8A.
Okay, can I have a motion to pass the rest? Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the consent agenda minus A and G.
Let's go ahead and vote. And that passes unanimously. Let's go ahead and move on to ordinances on second reading. And we will return to item A and G shortly. This is ordinance 2018-01, a bill for an ordinance authorizing the City of Longmont to lease the real property known as Vance Brand Municipal Airport Hangar Parcel H16, known as the premises, to General Hangars Corporation, the tenant. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open up the public hearing. Mayor Pro Tem Christensen has a question or comment.
I would like to know what General Hangars Corporation does. Do they buy up hangars?
Mayor Bagley, Mayor Pro Tem Christensen, it is the name of the entity that has signed a lease with the city. This is just a lease extension for all intents and purposes. It's kind of a group of hangars all in one building.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so they just formed a corporation, and they lease it out to individual hangar owners.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments from council? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up to public hearing. Anyone want to talk about this hangar? No? All right. Let's go ahead and close the public hearing. And can we have a motion if there's no further discussion? Councilmember Finley?
Thank you, Mayor. I move ordinance 2018-01.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. It passes unanimously. Ordinance 2018-2, a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2018. Are there any questions or comments from council? Actually, is there a staff report, Mr. Golden? Only if we want one. Well, I don't see anybody asking for one, so just hold on a second. All right. If there's no questions, comments, or debate, let's go ahead and open it up for public hearing. Anyone want to talk about the budget? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Can we go ahead and have a motion? Councilmember Rodriguez, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. I move passage of O 2018-02.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's go ahead and vote. And that passes unanimously. Let's move on to ordinance 2018-03, a bill for an ordinance authorizing the city of Longmont to lease the real property known as Vance Brand Municipal Airport Hangar Parcel H-33A, the premises, to Chad Welch, the tenant. Oh, sorry. Are there any questions from council? Councilmember, or Mayor Pro Tem Christensen.
I once again, I would like to know what Mr. Welch's business is at the airport.
Mayor Bagley, Mayor Pro Tem Christensen, he is an aircraft owner who has recently purchased the hangar improvements from the former tenant.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, let's move on to the public hearing. Any member of the public want to talk about airport or airport hangars? No? Karen Dyke? No? All right. Just checking. Just checking. I know you're excited tonight. We can talk about stuff. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And can we have a motion, please? Councilmember Peck, you got the mic. Let's go for it.
Thank you. I move passage of 02-1803.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. Anybody's wondering, it's the sixth vote of the evening. It shows up on my little screen. Vote 6. And that passes unanimously. All right, let's go back and let's hit up, do 8A first, if that's okay. Councilmember Peck?
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. Actually, I just have a question. In the council communication on this, it said that we would be using code enforcement officers to help the police with these abandoned and my question is, just as a reminder, with the new police tax that we passed, are we hiring more code enforcement people?
No, that was not on the public safety tax, but we did add an additional code enforcement officer in the budget for 2018.
Okay, because it seems like we only had 2, didn't we?
No, we have, how many do we?
Oh, 6.
6.
Oh, okay. So I was missing. Okay. Good. I just wanted to make sure we had enough people. Thanks. So knowing that, I move to pass 02-1805.
Okay. Oh, hold on. What was vote? I can't see my little thing. It says vote 7. All right, cool. Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. I was not a member of the council when this was originally passed in August of 2017. So I do want to just chime in on a couple points real quick before we get to the motion. First of all, I'm not against the ordinance, and I'm not against, obviously, the amendment to the ordinance. What I am against is not providing some sort of alternative, a parking alternative, be it some sort of parking lot or partnership to provide a parking space to alleviate our residents, that are homeowners, concerns as far as RVs parking on public right-of-ways in front of their homes. So I just want to make it well known that while I do support the amendment to the standing ordinance, publicly I would like to see some sort of alternative to allow for these RVs to have a legal place to be. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Christensen.
Yes, I completely agree with Council Member Rodriguez. I brought something like this up at the time. We discussed the fact that they are being given notice that they might be towed, but they are not being given any alternative. And there is, in fact, no alternative, really, because the only place they can currently go is down by the fairgrounds, which is often full, and out by the Union Reservoir, which is not open, I don't believe, in the wintertime. So they have no choice for an actual legal place to park, and I don't think this is helpful. I do think that we do need to address this loophole in the law that people can move for an hour and then come back. I thought that we had originally made it that they had to be a week, gone for a week. But no, okay. I do think that that's a good idea. But I would ask that first of all, I'm not sure how we're going to coordinate the police and code enforcement if they're both doing the same job of noticing this. But if we're going to notice people, then we need to tell them where they can legally park. The idea here is that we don't want people living on the street. You can't just have people living on the street because it creates a nuisance for the neighbors and it creates unsanitary position and unsafe situations in terms of sanitation and in terms of electricity and in terms of a lot of things. So I understand that, and I am certainly for putting a limit on that, but they have to have some place to go. And so far we have not addressed the issue of where people can camp either in RVs or in tents. And so I would like us to do that either tonight or at some future time.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. I chatted with our city manager about this and asked him to put the specific topic on the agenda when we discuss affordable housing, because this is affordable housing in a sense. So I think it is going to be on the agenda when we do that. Thank you.
All right, we've got a motion. Let's go ahead and vote. Reminding everyone to vote. And this passes with everyone in agreement except Councilmember Martin, who is against. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Resolution 2018-05, a resolution of the Longmont City Council in support of utilizing 1% renewable energy sources for Longmont's electrical energy supply by 2030. Councilmember Martin, you pulled this.
I think we may have some amendments as well, but I wanted to make the remark to assure the public that this resolution and the plan for the resolution does not involve the purchase of carbon credits. And I also want to emphasize that so far, increasing renewable purchases by PRPA have exerted downward pressure on rates, not upward pressure on rates. So I just want to get it out there that what you've been hearing about extreme rate increases because of this resolution are fear, uncertainty, and doubt spread by people who don't want us to go to renewable energy. But I want to reassure the public that we have no reason to expect that that's going to cause a problem with rates.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. Actually, I was going to pull this too. Thanks, staff. I want to thank staff for making this resolution, but I would like to have a couple of amendments on it. The first one is renewable energy. I would like that defined, so I move that at page 1, line 10.
Councilmember Peck, can you just hold on while we all get there?
Sure. So it's page 1, line 10.
So page 1 of the resolution, page 143 in our packet, line 10.
Yeah, where it says renewable energy. Are you there?
Are we all there? Okay.
Okay, I would like to move that it is defined as existing hydroelectric generation, solar generating technology, wind turbines, geothermal energy, tidal energy, and other means that may become available that do not burn fossil fuels or other carbon-based fuels and do not add greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. So that's a motion.
We need a second.
Second it.
Okay, it's been seconded. Do we have any questions, comments, or debates? All right, Councilmember Finley. Nope, hold on. Cleared out. Go ahead.
Let's try again. Thank you, Mayor. I'm a climate change believer. I am in favor of PRPA's net carbon approach. I am not in favor of this amendment. It reminds me of a story I heard right before the holidays about, I think it was either Brussels or Amsterdam, who is zero carbon. They were having trouble finding things to produce electricity, so they started burning H&M's excess clothing in order to provide electricity to their residents. And this just cracked me up, because if you've ever been to H&M, most of their clothing is made from carbon-based fiber. I would hate to see us get to that point, but with climate change, that could happen. The sun might not shine, the wind might not blow, the rivers could dry up, and I don't want to see us... Net zero makes sense to me, because then you have an alternative. 100% non-carbon does not. I agree with former Mayor Coombs on this point. It's a great goal. It's something that we should strive for, but it's not something that we should strap ourselves to. So I won't be voting in favor of the amendment or probably of the resolution for those reasons.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. I believe the motion is specifically about a definition of renewable energy, not specifically about net carbon. And as such, I believe that renewable energy, as a definition specifically, would not include fossil fuels such as natural gas, which would implicate the net carbon. As such, I would support the amendment to define renewable energy as such. Thank you.
Okay. I guess my thoughts are that I'm going to vote for the amendment, first of all, because I've always... it's very easy to take maybe one or more of those terms that you just listed and say, oh, that's not environmentally friendly. I mean, it'd be very easy to begin narrowing down the scope of renewables until the point where it truly becomes impossible. So that I think it's it's good to define renewable energy. And the other thing is just in this particular definition, nowhere are we saying that we're not going to have something on hand just in case. Whether it be, Jason Frisbee and Platte River Power Authority's recommended, combined cycle. And calm down. I know. I'm not saying that we're going to go there. I'm just saying that, obviously, if the sun ain't blowing, if the sun don't blow, the wind don't blow, the sun don't shine, or the water don't run, we're not going to freeze in the winter, and we're not going to die of heat stroke in the summer. And we need our lights, and we need our technology. So. I think let's go ahead and vote. This is just for the amendment, not for the resolution. This is for Councilmember Peck's amendment. Yep, we should be on vote 8. No? 7 sub 2. All right, that passes with everybody voting for except Councilmember Finley, who votes against. All right, Councilmember Peck.
Thank you. I have another amendment to this that I would like you to consider. So I'm going to page 3, section 3, line 20.
So page 145 in the packet, line 20?
Yes. So there is a phrase there that says on a regular basis. I move that we amend that to be replaced with the phrase at least annually, so that it is designated instead of just on a regular basis, could be 5 years. So at least annually.
Any questions, comments, or debate on this motion? Let's vote. That passes unanimously. Councilmember Martin.
I move that we adopt the resolution. As amended, yes. Thank you.
That was moved by Councilmember Martin and seconded by our Mayor Pro Tem. Any additional comments, thoughts, etc.? All right, before we vote, I guess I just want to make one comment, and that is I've gotten a lot of calls, emails, etc. from my supporters, so to speak, on the right. I guess is the right way to say that. I want to stress that there's a couple of things I want to point out. First of all, this resolution, I think it's important that as a city we're making a statement. But I also want to point out that I was very careful when I crafted my original proclamation, and then when I read this. We have to remember that there's three key pieces of energy. Okay? Reliability, affordability, and environmental responsibility. And the debate seems to be about, oh my gosh, this is going to be too expensive. Or, oh my gosh, when the sun don't shine, what are you going to do? Or, oh my gosh, why in the world would you guys not sell rawhide, burn the boats, and move forward? It's about just moving forward in a common sense direction. I want to point out right now that the community has been talking a lot about this. It's been a passionate conversation, but at the end of the day, Longmont has 2 votes on Platte River Power Authority. The mayor's, and only mine short term, and Tom Roniotis. And this is a way for us to basically say we're going to move forward in this direction. But the first step is simply doing little things. We can either spend the money to replace Craig 1 in 2025, or we can buy cheaper wind. We can either continue digging down 12 feet out at Craig 1 and 2 coal power plants, or we can ship it in 3 feet from Wyoming, or we can build wind turbines. It's just a question of economics. What makes economic sense right now? And right now, it is wind. We're going to hopefully join the Southwest Power Pool, which will get us up to over 50% renewable energy. And we just make these decisions as it comes up. We're not going to 100% renewables overnight. We're not increasing our rates, although incidentally, nobody said it, but we decreased broadband rates. Thank you, Mr. Tom Roniotis. So we didn't give much credit for that, but we decreased them, or he decreased them. Thank you. So I guess I just want to point out that this is a political football, but I don't view it as a political football. I just view this as providing power, reliable, affordable, responsible power. So let's go. Mayor Pro Tem Christensen.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Sorry. Thank you. I appreciate those comments. I think that the 3 branches of what we need is the sensible way to look forward to Longmont's future. And this is just one way of addressing our future. This alone is not going to create everything we need, but it's a start. And we all know that technology moves very, very quickly, and we will have other ways to store things as we go along. We're not doing this overnight. This takes time. And we're moving, as the PACE report that was commissioned by PRP stated, this will be we'll move forward as technology moves forward. But the end goal is to have 100% renewables. And the other things we need to do that are not stated in here is we need to work on conservation. We need to work on green buildings so we're not losing so much energy. So we need to incentivize people or incent people to build homes that are that conserve energy. We need to see what we can to incent people to buy electric cars. I would love an electric car, but I couldn't possibly afford one. we need to, with that, have energy, have electric charging stations, because there's no point having an electric car if you can't get it charged up. There are many, many things we need to do. We need to incent people to do xeriscaping, and people need to understand that we are not going backwards in the xeriscaping that we do with our park system. That works. That is what Colorado is. We're not Ohio, and we don't have golf courses all over the place. We have High Plains Desert, and that's what we like. So we need to emphasize the things we already are doing, and also encourage people to continue to do things so that we actually can have a good future for our kids and our grandchildren. And we do that by conserving as well as by renewables. So thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. I'd like to commend Mayor Pro Tem Christensen's remarks. Those are all good ideas. We don't want to boil the ocean this time. This resolution is about the generation of electricity. And as for the other stuff, lest anyone think it's not on our radar, what I have to say about that is stay tuned.
All right, seeing no other comments, let's go ahead and vote on the resolution. Actually, we have a motion, right? Do we have a motion? Okay, yeah, as amended, yes. Let's vote. That passes with everyone for, with Councilmember Finley against, but we still love her. All right. Jeez. Don't make me use this. Do not make me use this. Although at some point, anyway, you'll see. I'll bring it. I'll surprise you. All right, let's go ahead and go on to general business. Funding options for 2018 Human Services contract with El Comité. Karen Roney, the time is yours. Give us some solutions.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley, members of council. Karen Roney with Community Services. So back in December 12th, we did get direction from council regarding the 2018 Human Service Agency funding recommendations. Council approved the slate of recommendations that the Housing and Human Services Advisory Board recommended, and also directed us to fund El Comité in the amount of $15,000. So we offered to go back and look at different funding options, and we did that unofficially at our December 15th Housing and Human Services Advisory Board meeting. We were one short of a quorum. So I got some input. So this is not official recommendation from the advisory board, but we looked at basically three options. One would be to reduce all of the agencies by 2.4%. That got us to the 15,000. Also to reduce the agencies that were being funded in the same category that El Comité fell in. We also looked, we also suggested the council contingency, which at the end of 2017, the amount that remained was $20,000 and some change, sorry about that, as well as there's $60,000 that's available starting in 2018. And then our final option was to basically reduce some funding that we have yet to allocate to either the homeless service system or to a housing stabilization program. So we've allocated all but roughly $100,000 because we weren't sure where we were going to need additional services, whether we were going to need additional services for our homeless system, which we invested in 2018. And then we just now are contracting with the Our Center to do housing stabilization and keep people at risk of losing their housing in housing. So we don't know where the demand is, extra demand is going to be for those two services. So we just we held out some money to see where we would need that later on in the year. So we are sitting there with some dollars that we have not yet allocated. So we could also take $15,000 from that that amount that we have not yet allocated. So based on the input unofficially from the advisory board, their input was, number one, take it from council contingency. This is probably not a surprise. Number two is to take that from the amount that we have not yet allocated, or could be a combination of those two sources. So we really are looking for council direction.
How much is in council contingency, including last year's carryover?
So if you include last year's carryover, that would be $80,000.
All right, I'd just move that we take it out of council contingency. Second. All right. Any additional debate? All right, let's vote. All right, that passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. And I do believe that either Harold or Jim would be asking for some direction from council about what you would like to do with that 2017 remaining contingency, whether you want to carry that over into 2018. But I will turn that over to the city manager at some point in time.
Do you guys just want to carry it over?
Yeah, that's what we normally do. Is we carry it
consensus? Over. Just carry it over. We have consensus.
Thank you.
All right. All right. It is time for final call. Public invited to be heard. Anyone in the public want to come up and yell, scream, say anything you want? You got 3 minutes. It's a fun time. All right. Mayor and council comments. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. I'm going to do a special shout out to, in deference of the history of Longmont as a former Chicago, Colorado colony, as well as just personally, I know a lot of Chicagoans who have moved here, to Pop's Chicago Dogs on 3rd Avenue, providing amazing Chicago dogs and Italian beef sandwiches. Please check them out. Thank you.
Oh, the used to be the wing shack.
Used to be the wing shack.
Wing shack.
Oh, the Chicago people love it. They source everything from Chicago.
Councilmember Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. And I would just like to thank the environmentalist community for their activism, for their dedication, and for their incredible ability to stir up the grassroots and make it grow. So thank you all, especially those of you who stuck it out to the end.
Mayor Pro Tem Christensen.
I would also like to thank Marcia Martin for working so hard on this, and for all the other people who worked hard on it, particularly City Manager Harold Dominguez and Tom Ryanaitis, because they did a lot of work on this too. So thank you.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Bagley. After 2 weeks off, I just want to wish everybody an incredible Happy New Year.
I didn't bring it up at the beginning because I wanted you guys to have a chance to think about it, and I'm not going to put it on the agenda now. I'm not going to vote on it now. But in talking with Chief Butler, this wasn't his idea. He didn't put me up to it. But we had down in Douglas County, we had a family that lost a father and husband. And I was talking, and I asked Chief Butler, well, could we do anything? And I know that the public safety department's been involved, et cetera. But he said, well, maybe send flowers. And then it turns out that there's like 50 flowers like all kinds of bouquet. I was wondering, would you think it's appropriate to take $1,000 out of council contingency and give it to the family? Is that something you don't have to respond now? I'm not asking for anyone to say yes, no. I don't want to make this a. The question is just. I'm going to bring it up in a week. You can think about it. The question is it appropriate? Is it something you want to do? I think it would just be a good gesture. So, Councilmember Peck.
I think that's a great idea. The other thing you might consider is a dedicated tree or a bench on a parkway or whatever unless you think the family actually needs the money or would like it.
Okay, well, let's think about that.
So, right.
Yeah, all right. Mayor Pro Tem.
Sorry. This might be a good thing if they have started a college fund for their children to donate it to that or something like that for the family. I just, whatever we can do would be nice.
Okay, all right. Then I will bring that up in the appropriate time next meeting. I don't see anything else. So city manager, remarks.
No comments, Mayor, Council.
All right, city attorney, Mr. May.
No comments, Mayor.
You're a genius. You're a genius. All right, then we are adjourned. It's a very stable genius, yes. Some would say